Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to uncover the story of Gisèle Pelicot. She's a woman who, wow, in the face of, unimaginable trauma, became this global symbol for resilience and a really powerful advocate against sexual violence.
Wow.
So our sources today are news articles and Giselle's Wikipedia entry.
Okay.
And they paint a really interesting picture together of how this woman who had, a seemingly ordinary life, sparked this global movement.
Yeah. It's really fascinating how her story, it resonates with so many. Giselle's journey is one of transformation. She goes from a pretty quiet life to becoming this voice for countless others.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's almost hard to believe. There's this really powerful statement that she made
Oh, yeah.
during the trial.
Okay.
I think it really struck me. She said, the shame is theirs.
Wow.
She's referring to the perpetrators, obviously.
Right.
And it just makes you wonder, where did she find this strength? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not only to seek out, but to turn her personal tragedy into this platform for change.
Yeah. Her courage is remarkable.
It is. Yeah.
To understand, I think, the depth of that strength, we need to kind of look at the life that she was living before these events came to light.
Yeah, for sure. Let's rewind a little bit.
Okay.
We know that she was born in Germany. She moved to France when she was a child. And she experienced the loss of her mother at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1973, she married Dominique, had 3 children, and built a career in administration. It sounds like a fairly, typical life, at least on the surface.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think this seeming normalcy makes the contrast even more stark when you consider what was happening kind of behind closed doors. It reminds us that, you never really know what someone else is going through.
That is so true.
Yeah.
And it's chilling to think that while they're building this seemingly, quote unquote, normal life together, there were already troubling signs about Dominique's character.
Right.
He had this history of troubling behavior that Gisèle was completely unaware of.
Right.
There's that upskirting incident in 2010.
Yeah, that's right. Dominique, he paid a fine just to avoid a court case, so he kept that incident hidden from Gisèle and everybody else.
Wow.
And then there are also these allegations that link him to attacks on women in the 1990s.
Oh, wow.
So it adds another layer of complexity, to the picture. It makes you realize how easily somebody can hide their true nature.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a completely different person was lurking beneath the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really scary.
So how did they go from this seemingly normal life to this horrifying situation that unfolded later?
Well, they retired to Mazan in 2013. And it seemed like the perfect kind of idyllic setting for a happy retirement.
Right.
But that picturesque facade really hid a very dark truth. For 9 years, Gisèle was being drugged and abused without her knowledge.
9 years.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. Just to think that this was happening while everyone thought that they were enjoying a peaceful retirement.
Yeah, and it's a stark reminder, I think, of how easily abuse can be concealed, especially when it involves something like chemical submission.
Right.
Which essentially means using drugs to incapacitate someone to make them vulnerable to assault.
Wow.
So
Gisèle was experiencing health problems, and she suspected that she might be drugged.
Mm-hmm.
But Dominique was manipulating her.
Right.
Keeping her in the dark about what was truly happening.
Exactly. The manipulation and the use of drugs, that's a hallmark of this type of abuse. It makes it incredibly difficult for victims to recognize what's going on, let alone seek help.
Yeah.
The psychological impact of this kind of trauma is devastating.
Oh, yeah. It's terrifying to think about the level of trust that was betrayed. So how did this horrific situation finally come to light? Was it Gisèle who finally figured out what was happening?
Well, it was a shocking twist of fate, really, that brought the truth to the surface. Remember that upskirting incident from Dominique's past?
Yeah.
Well, in 2020, he's arrested again for the same offense.
Oh, wow.
This time at a local supermarket. And so when the police searched his computer, they stumbled upon this horrifying discovery. images of Gisèle being raped.
That's unbelievable. I mean, imagine the world just completely shattering around you,
Right.
realizing that your partner, the person you trust the most, had been violating you in such a horrific way.
Mm-hmm.
For years, I can't even begin to imagine the pain and the betrayal that she must have felt.
It's almost impossible to comprehend, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's in this moment, this moment of registrating discovery, that Giselle's incredible strengths, I think, begins to shine through.
Okay.
Instead of shrinking back, she decides to take control of the narrative.
So this is where she makes this incredible decision to waive her anonymity and have a public trial.
That's right.
That's such a bold move.
It is.
Especially for someone who has, just experienced such a profound violation of trust.
Absolutely. I mean, most victims choose to remain anonymous, and understandably so. The personal cost of going public with such a traumatic experience is immense. But Gisèle had a different goal in mind. She wanted justice not just for herself, but for all victims of chemical submission and sexual violence.
So she was using her experience to make a larger statement.
Precisely. She saw an opportunity to raise awareness about this form of abuse that often goes, undetected, and to empower other victims to come forward.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly courageous, to use your own personal pain to advocate for change on such a large scale.
Yeah, her bravery is inspiring.
It is.
And it's no wonder that her story resonated with people worldwide.
Oh yeah, her story it struck a chord on this global level.
Yeah.
The trial became a focal point, drawing attention to the complexities of consent, accountability, and just societal attitudes towards sexual violence. It became bigger than just one woman's fight for justice.
Yeah, and speaking of, global attention,
Right.
There's that incredible story about the Australian scarf.
Oh yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so the Australian Older Women's Network sent Gisèle this beautiful scarf. It was hand knitted by Aboriginal women.
Wow.
And she wore it throughout the trial.
Wow.
As this symbol of solidarity and support from women all over the world.
Wow.
It's a powerful image. It really speaks to the unifying nature of her story.
It's amazing how her story brought people together from, different countries and cultures.
Yeah.
It shows you the power of shared experiences and the strength that comes from collective support.
It really does. And that support was evident, in the countless demonstrations that were held in Gisèle's name.
Yeah.
And the outpouring of admiration she received.
It's like she became this symbol of hope.
Yeah.
A beacon for other survivors to look to and find strength in.
Yeah.
Her story really took on a life of its own.
It absolutely did. And it's important to remember that her impact, wasn't just confined to demonstrations or public displays of support.
Right.
She was also recognized on this global scale for her influence.
Yeah, you're talking about her inclusion in the BBC's 100 Women and the Financial Times list of influential women.
Exactly. These are significant accolades. They recognize her as a force for change on a global level.
Yeah.
Her story resonated with people from all walks of life. It transcended geographical and cultural boundaries.
It's incredible to think that one woman's story could have such a ripple effect across the globe.
It really is, but her story is far from over. The trial brought justice for Gisèle, but it also opened this Pandora's box of unanswered questions, particularly regarding Dominique's past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those unanswered questions are really lingering in my mind.
Yeah.
What else do we know about these allegations from the 1990s?
Right. Well, it's like the trial peeled back this layer,
Okay.
revealing this darker history that demands further investigation.
Yeah.
Remember those allegations that linked Dominique to attacks on women dating back to the 1990s?
Yeah.
Well, one incident involved this young estate agent in 1999.
Huh?
And Dominique actually admitted to this incident.
Oh, wow. He admitted to it.
He did, yeah. And it's chilling to think that this admission only came to light after his arrest in 2020.
Right.
For the upskirting incident. So it raises these questions about, how many other incidents might have gone unreported or unnoticed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a disturbing thought. And there's an even more serious allegation, isn't there?
There is, yeah. There's the unsolved case of another young estate agent who was raped and murdered in 1991.
Oh, Oh my gosh.
And authorities are now investigating whether Dominique could be involved in this case as well.
Wow, that's a heavy weight hanging over everything.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder if the trial was just the tip of the iceberg,
right.
in terms of uncovering the truth about Dominique's past.
Yeah, it certainly raises more questions than answers. And let's not forget about those 17 men who appealed their conviction.
Oh, right, yeah.
Their arguments are particularly interesting in light of everything we've learned about Dominique's manipulation and the use of drugs to incapacitate his victims.
So what are they claiming? Are they saying that they had no idea that Gisèle was drugged?
That seems to be the basis of their appeal, yeah.
Okay.
They're arguing that they weren't aware that Gisèle was unable to consent, due to being drugged.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's a difficult argument to grasp,
it is.
considering the evidence presented at the trial about, Dominique's systematic drugging of Gisèle.
It is. And it'll be fascinating to see how the birds handle this argument.
Yeah.
As these appeals are decided, could have a huge impact on future cases involving drug-facilitated sexual assault.
For sure. It's almost as if Gisèle's story has become like this catalyst for change in the legal system. Forcing society to confront these complexities of consent and the challenges of proving culpability in cases where drugs are used.
You're absolutely right. Her case has shown a spotlight on the issue of drug-facilitated sexual assault,
Yeah.
and it's prompting this deeper examination of how these crimes are investigated,
Yeah.
prosecuted, and ultimately judged.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the legal aspects and the unanswered questions surrounding Dominique's past, but I kind of want to take a moment to circle back to Gisèle.
Okay.
And her incredible resilience.
Right.
To face such trauma and then to turn it into this platform for change is remarkable.
It is.
It makes you wonder how she found the strength to do that.
Yeah, it's a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity.
Yeah.
And in Gisèle's case, it speaks to this strength that goes beyond the individual.
Okay.
It's about the collective power of women supporting each other,
Yeah.
amplifying each other's voices, and demanding change.
Think about all the public support that she received.
Right.
The demonstrations, the global recognition.
Exactly.
It's a powerful example of women uniting against violence.
Yeah.
And refusing to be silenced.
Absolutely. And remember that Australian scarf that she wore to court?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just a piece of clothing.
Right.
It was this tangible symbol of international solidarity,
Yeah.
this visual representation of women from all over the world standing with Gisèle and saying, we believe you, we support you, and we're fighting alongside you.
It's incredible how her story resonated with women from different countries and cultures.
Yeah.
They saw themselves in her experience, recognized her pain, her strength, and her fight for justice.
What's even more remarkable, I think, is that Gisèle's impact goes beyond raising awareness.
Right.
She has inspired action.
Okay.
Her story has emboldened other victims to come forward
Yeah.
and seek justice, to break the silence, and to hold perpetrators accountable.
It's as if she's given a voice to the voiceless.
Right.
It's no wonder that she was included in the BBC's 100 Women
Right.
and the Financial Times list of influential women.
Exactly.
These recognitions speak volumes about her impact, not just on a personal level, but on this global scale.
Absolutely. Those accolades recognize her contribution to this global movement.
Yeah.
She's become this symbol of hope and resilience for countless people who have experienced similar trauma.
Right.
Her story reminds us that even in the darkest of times, courage and resilience can emerge, and change is possible.
You mentioned earlier that a British journalist even started a petition for Gisèle to receive the Nobel Peace Prize.
That's right. The petition was launched the day after the verdicts were announced,
Wow.
highlighting the global significance of her story and her contribution to this larger conversation about peace, justice, and human rights.
What a powerful testament to her legacy. And it brings up a really interesting question. What will people remember most about Gisèle Pelicot?
Yeah.
Will it be the horrific abuse that she suffered, or will it be her incredible courage in the face of it all?
That's a great question, and it leads us to what I believe is the most crucial aspect of Gisèle's story, her legacy.
Okay.
How will her story continue to inspire and shape the world?
That's a perfect place to delve deeper. What is Gisèle Pelicot's lasting legacy, and what does it mean for the future? And it really is incredible to think about the impact that like one person's story can have.
It is.
You know, here we are, we're delving into this legacy of Gisèle Pelicot, a woman who went from, living a seemingly quiet life to sparking a global movement.
It really highlights the potential we all have, I think, to create change.
Yeah.
You know, her story, while it's born from this immense tragedy, it ultimately speaks to the power of resilience, courage and using your voice to fight for justice,
Right.
not just for yourself, but for others.
And it wasn't just about speaking out, though, right? It's about taking action.
Right.
Giselle didn't just survive this; she fought back.
Yeah, she demanded accountability.
Yeah, and in doing so, she challenged societal norms and pushed for real change.
Absolutely. Her decision to waive anonymity and have this public trial that was a watershed moment.
Yeah.
It forced society to confront the often hidden reality of drug-facilitated sexual assault.
Right.
It brought the conversation out into the open, and it challenged the legal system to really grapple with the complexities of consent in these types of cases.
Yeah, and you can't underestimate the impact of that global attention, can you?
No.
All those demonstrations, the street art, the outpouring of support from around the world,
Right.
it all contributed to this larger movement.
Yeah, they were really powerful visual reminders, I think, of the collective outrage
Yeah.
and the demand for change that Giselle's story ignited. It wasn't just happening in a courtroom.
Right.
This was happening in the streets, online, in conversations all over the world.
Yeah, it's as though she became this symbol of hope.
Yeah.
A beacon for other survivors who had been silenced for so long.
Right.
She showed them that it's possible to speak up, to fight back, and to demand accountability.
And she did it with this incredible grace and dignity.
Yeah.
Which I think is a crucial part of her legacy.
Yeah.
Even in the face of this unimaginable trauma, she remained strong and determined.
Right.
Demonstrating that resilience can be this powerful force for change.
It's truly inspiring. Her story serves as this powerful reminder that change is possible.
Yeah.
But it requires courage, it requires resilience and a collective effort to break the silence, to challenge society norms, and to hold perpetrators accountable.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a world where sexual violence is no longer tolerated.
Right.
A world where Giselle's story becomes less about this extraordinary exception,
Yeah.
and more about the norm of demanding justice.
So as we reach the end of this deep dive into the life and legacy of Gisèle Pelicot,
Right.
I find myself wondering what can each of us take away from her story? How can we apply what we've learned to our own lives?
Yeah.
And contribute to creating a safer and more just world?
Those are excellent questions, and I think they're at the heart of what Giselle's legacy is all about.
Yeah.
It's not just about remembering her story.
Right.
It's about carrying her message forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's about taking action in our own communities and advocating for change on every level.
So for you listening, think about this. What resonated with you most in Gisèle Pelicot's story? And what can you do, even in a small way, to contribute to a world where her fight for justice becomes, everyone's fight?
Remember, change starts with each of us. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.